haven't tested this yet, so we'll see how this goes. I'm Cat Reusswig, and as he said, I'm a Senior Director at Time Warner Cable. I'm responsible for all the customer-facing web development. So it's all our websites that are externally facing. We've been on AEM for like 3.5 years, and I'm going to talk about this journey tonight of going from 5.6.1 to 6.1. And we aren't done yet. We're still on this journey. The blurb kind of made it sound like we're done, but we're not quite there yet. It's still a work in progress, and I hope what I share with you tonight is relevant to you, and maybe I can talk to some of you and learn about your experiences too. So saying that, how many of you have gone through the upgrade to 5.6.1? Or I mean just 6.1, sorry. All right, there's a few. That's awesome. All right. Are any of you in the process of going through the upgrade? Yeah, okay, there's more of us on this journey together. Okay, great. Well, so let me give this a shot. For us, it is an adventure, it is a journey, so, and we're in Colorado, so I thought I'd give you a picture of the mountains. One of the first things to decide is how to begin, right? How do you get started with your team? Then really getting into what your minimum viable product should be, and I'll talk a little bit more about that if that's a new term for some of you. And then finally, how do you roll it out? We have a lot of different sites on AEM, so which one do we start with? How to begin? Where do you start? There's Mongo now with 6.1. There's a lot of differences. And I say 6.1, but it's 6.0 as well, right? There's a lot of changes. Adobe refactored the whole back end, right? There's now the touch UI versus the classic UI. There's a lot of new capabilities. There's Sightly. There's all these different things that you need to take a look at and decide what you're going to do. So for my team, I have 6 Scrum teams. We work in an agile environment. We do 2-week sprint cycles. And so to kick off our 6.1 journey, I took one of the 6 Scrum teams and had them start working spike stories. And the spike stories were totally focused on what are the architectural decisions we need to make. And then kind of flowing into what are our architectural recommendations for these decisions that we need to make. So on the top I put Mongo, Oak, Solar, ours. What I'm referring to there is really we rolled our own Solar implementation when we started a couple years ago. So we have an enterprise search capability on Solar that we use. You may not have anything like that, but you may have your own customizations that you need to take a look at and say, oh, Adobe's got this now. Do I take a look at switching to theirs, or do I keep going with mine? You know, depending on where the maintenance is, where the capabilities are, all those kinds of things. So those are the kinds of things that we started taking a look at. So part of getting started as well, for us it's been a road. So we started with this one Scrum team doing spikes in kind of the February timeframe, but then we had some other big projects, so it didn't get as hot on the front burner as it is now. We really started moving hard on it, I would say, about a couple of sprints ago. But there's just a lot of different things to consider, you know, and I put a blurry thing over this so you can't really read it because everybody's journey is a little bit different. But the things you need to look at are like all the APIs that have changed, right? What are the things that got deprecated? You know, what's the work around upgrading to Java 8 and jQuery 1.11, right? All those different things have to be investigated so you can figure out what you're going to focus on and what's going to be on your path. So we started really inventorying the journey, right? TarMK versus Mongo. If we go TarMK for the publish instances, does that automatically drive what we do for the author instances, or can we mix and match a little bit? Java 8 upgrade. For the upgrade scenario, are we going to go with a clean install, or are we going to upgrade in place? Those are choices that you're going to have to make your decision around. Then for us, we started this just, as 6.1 was, or 6.0 was coming out, and then 6.1 was planned. And so do we go with 6.0? Do we go with 6.1? And then all those different API version updates, what are we doing with that? We do our regionalization based pretty much completely on teasers. We did not do the multi-site manager implementation, so we have 8 regions across our footprint, and the way we deal with it is we tease the content for the different prices or the different product offers, and it's actually a modified 5.4 version of teasers. So we needed to look at how those were going to work with 6.0 code base from Adobe. Then jQuery upgrade for us, we originally went with a static site implementation when we first rolled out on AEM in 2012. And since then, we've done everything has become fully responsive. We rolled our own on that. And so we wanted to look at, as we moved forward into this new upgrade, how do we clean all that old stuff up and get rid of it and figure out what's in use? And so part of our jQuery work was starting to scope out what that work effort was going to be. This next one I think is unique to us, but maybe some of you have run into it. Google Guava 15 versus 17. Adobe didn't used to deliver Google Guava, but we needed it for some of the things we were doing, and so we incorporated it into our build process, but we were using a more current version. We were using 17. And then lo and behold, in 6.0, they're starting to roll it out with version 15. So do we back up? Do we figure out how to go around it and stay with 17? Some other decisions that we had to make. Classic UI for your authoring team, or Touch UI. The Touch UI demo is hot. Our authors were so excited. And then we started kind of digging into it on those spike stories and going, whoa, baby, there's a lot of work here. And then when or if to start using Sightly, what's that code that comes out of that generated, and how does it perform, and get the development team into it or not, take a look at all that stuff. So these are all the questions for the journey that we needed to kind of drive out and answer as we went through it. For us, how we figure things out is we go try them, right? I'm sure that's, a lot of you do the same thing, right, to make your decisions. So we did, for tar versus Mongo, this is just one of the examples, and I was talking about that the team comes back with the recommendations to the questions. So we took a look and came up with the pros and the cons of going with it, and we did some metrics, we did some testing to try to give us some more data to make our decision, and we're actually going to wind up going with TarMK. And as things evolve and you learn more about optimizing, some of these results would change, but for us, that's where we're winding up. But that's just the way that we do things. Part of our spike is to try things out. Your minimum viable product. What's going to be your smallest, high-value deliverable that you can provide to the business, right? That's really what it's about. Everybody wants the big box of donuts with all the different colored donuts in it, and you can go with just one, right? So for us, where we wound up is really making the choice to go bare bones as is. And what I mean by that is, let's get our existing code working on the 6.0, 6.1 code base with as few changes as we can possibly make to help minimize our testing and focus on performance. For us, again, making the decision on 6.0 versus 6.1. We decided to go with 6.1. Our business is pretty excited about some of the new capabilities that are in 6.1, particularly in the personalization and the new campaign functionality and some of those things. So we're looking at getting them the foundation for that. We're not actually implementing any of those things as part of our 6.1 upgrade, but it'll be soon thereafter. The Java 8 upgrade will be part of our MVP. One of the big objectives that we had, that again may not be on your journey, but we wanted to migrate to the TWC Cloud, which was a new team within our organization. They're not quite a year old at this point, but they've gotten some great stuff built. And we wanted to be geo-redundant across multiple data centers. So getting onto the cloud gives us that capability right out of the chute. But of course, it gives other different hurdles because it's new. So for us, a cloud migration means new environments, which drives us towards a clean install. And then it gives us new things to work on with a new deploy process because we'll be multi-data center with our servers. And just in the cloud, we just need to change some things as well. As part of our journey, we looked at what are some of the things we can do as kind of pre-work to getting ready to go to 6.1. And the jQuery upgrade was a big one that we kind of carved out a few of the development team to really look at and work, and then decide how far to take that component cleanup, work with the business, figure out what things we could get rid of, talk to them about it, see if there are any other plans of other things that we could get rid of, and then proceed to do it and test it. And then now put a process in place so that as we create other components on our 5.6.1 code base, that we make sure they get across to the 6.1 code base as well. As I mentioned, post-work-wise, after we get on 6.1, we want to do new personalization stuff. We want to implement some of the new campaign capabilities. We want to look at some infrastructure changes that give us the opportunity to do some new, more robust things with clustering in the author space. And then Touch UI, I think that'll be its own project because I think we'll get to refactor quite a few of the components. If you've taken a look, you know what I'm talking about. How to deploy it. Lessons learned from 5.6.1 upgrade. We completely missed doing performance testing on the author instance. We focused 100% of our performance testing on the publish instance. When we went live, the authors cried. It took us days to get it optimized again, but we did succeed. But that was a great lesson to learn. The other lesson that we learned was we brought the DevOps guys in later than where we started with the developers on the 5.6.1 upgrade, which is not a true DevOps model. You really want to start together. And we moved to doing our orchestration with Puppet, and that was a big learning curve for us. It was better, it was successful, and it came through, but we learned we should really bring the DevOps guys right up front, and we've done that on the 6.1 upgrade. And we've got some more new tools we're learning and making our delivery even better. For me, it's which TWC site. So TimeWarnerCable.com is our main marketing site. It's got a lot of components to it, so we could also think about doing part of the site, because we have residential, we have commercial, we have corporate, we have care, and we have a partner portal for sales affiliates. We could look at doing just part of the site. We have some other sites too. We have news, and we have sports, and we have TWC Central, which is kind of the fan cast webmail site for fun celebrity type news and feeds like that. Should we consider a regional role? When we initially rolled out, we did it kind of region by region across the footprint and grew to the 100% of the site. We considered all these different things, and then because we're going as is, and because some of the big change for us is really getting to the cloud, we decided to go with our main big flagship site, TimeWarnerCable.com, and also we'll do the full site all at once and all regions at the same time. But I think it's the right decision for us, but again, those are things for you to consider as you make your decision on your upgrade path. All the other stuff you got to do. I was talking to somebody before coming up here tonight, and it's like test, test, retest, and test again. Some of the great research and things you can look at is checking the Adobe docs, checking all the upgrade scenarios to figure out if you should do a clean or in place, checking all the service pack info and about hot fixes and which things you want to apply, checking performance optimization. For us, there'll be a lot of performance testing. We'll be doing a lot of user acceptance testing with the business teams in the mix, and then just trying different things and deciding your path. For our cloud migration, some of the new tools that we're bringing into the picture is we're using Terraform to really build our deploy stack. I mean, it's driving our cloud orchestration. I mentioned we're on OpenStack. We're still on Puppet, but we're upgrading Puppet to achieve some of these things. And we've got this new implementation of how we're doing firewalls, how we're doing DNS. So we've got a lot of things that are kind of new in our picture and much more automated. So for us, we feel like we're taking the next step down the path of automation. And then on the deploy side, we've got for our load balancing, we're moving to HA proxy, which again is a new thing for us in this environment. We're also updating some of the build pipeline tools that we use. So the top layer here, App Dynamics, Splunk, and HipChat are really things that we use in monitoring and deploying. And they're very, very useful and helpful to us on getting alerts. Our 3 share friends are in HipChat with us and alert us on things that happen out in the production environment. And then for us, GitHub is really core to our culture of code quality. We do a +1 on code review. We do a +1 on test review for every commit that we make. Jenkins does our orchestration. There's some new plugins, which is why it's highlighted that we're adding into the mix as we move to the cloud. And we've had plugins for some time, and they help us know from a commit in GitHub that the information gets loaded up into Jira, into the individual ticket that the commit's associated with. And then we see the code comments and the test review comments. And at this point, we're pretty much a +2 environment on almost every commit. Some of our deploy scripts have to change since we are going to multiple data centers. And our deploy is really, the foundation of that is Gradle. We use Artifactory. In testing, we use a Selenium grid and Sauce Labs, and so we have to migrate all that to the cloud as well, so there's some changes there. So making this decision to go to the cloud added some scope and some work for us on the 6.1 migration plan. We do use Atlassian's Confluence for the wiki, and we use Jira for all our sprint planning. Oops, I'm hitting the wrong button. So back on the questions that I posed, where are we? TarMK versus Mongo, TarMK for us, and then for the authors, we're doing an active passive cluster as we go live. We'll look at some future enhancements after we get up on 6.1. Java 8 upgrade, yes. Clean versus upgrade in place, going with clean, brand new environments. I'm sure we're going to learn something. 6.1 versus 6.0, we're going with 6.1. How to handle all the API version updates, we've been tackling them one by one. For us, we found we can work with the 5.4 teaser customizations that we've had in place. It's going to work fine. The jQuery upgrade, we've been working with the business. Google Guava, we did decide to go with version 15 since that's what's shipping and is embedded throughout in the Adobe environment. We're staying with the classic UI and do touch UI later. And then when to use Sightly, we're still at the if stage. It's an if for us, and we'll need to learn more. So where are we? We have been working on resolving some UberJar issues. Some of you may have experienced these as you went through your upgrade. Working through a lot of bundle dependencies. And then testing still. For us, we released Grab-it as a content sync tool between environments. It's an open source contribution that we made, and we needed to update it so that it worked on both 5.6.1 as well as 6.1, and we just recently re-released it. Syncing the jQuery final details. Testing our new automated environment build. We're working on our continuous integration environment and our user acceptance testing environment, and at the end of this sprint cycle, I think we'll have both in existence. And then determining our final deploy plan and author freeze. You need to freeze your authors, at least for us, since we're doing a clean environment sync. We need to move the content there, and so we'll try to narrow the window as small as we can to hopefully it's going to be one work day, and just tell the authors to stop doing any changes and get it moved up, and then we'll be good to go. And I think our target is mid-October to the end of October for our go live, which is super exciting to us, and I can't wait to get it done, and then we can get on with all the post 6.1 work. So that's it for us. Any questions?
You mentioned that one of your sprint teams is working on this. So is there a feature freeze? For instance, if your other 5 teams are working on some features on 5.6, how do you migrate the code while you're updating?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and one that we've been discussing for a couple of sprints, right? So at this point, I have one team officially on 6.1. I have a sprint closure actually on Wednesday this week, and we'll be adding a second team full-time on the 6.1 upgrade. And then I think one more sprint later, we'll go to 3. I think we'll stay at 3 for a couple sprints. And then we'll decide what we're going to do, because those other 3 teams will continue to finish some projects that we have on the 5.6.1 code base. But I think ultimately we'll take all 6 teams for the final sprint while we're doing UAT and just dealing with any gating critical items for the release, and then get through UAT and go live. Right, so I think we'll at least have a 2-week feature freeze for sure, and it might go into 4 weeks. Does that answer your question? All right. Yes.
Hi, Kat.
Hi.
Thank you very much. Would you please maybe elaborate a little bit, if possible, on your decision on Touch versus Classic? Was it just not in your MVP, or you didn't make your time frame?
There's just a lot of work when you peel the onion. I saw a few head nods around here when I was saying that. So they've deprecated design mode for you in the 6.0.6.1 Touch UI. We use design mode in a lot of our components, so you have to refactor all of those components and test them. The way user profile information is consumed is different. The way sessions are initiated is different. And so just as we started listing the things that we were finding, it just sounded like a whole project by itself. So we'll take a look at sizing that after we get on 6.1, and because it's a lot of refactoring.
Hello. Hi, thanks for the nice session. Okay, since you mentioned about the Sightly, right? So all the components of 5.6 has been developed on other than Sightly. So how did you proceed with the Sightly in the 6.1? So did you develop all the components newly, or how did you take the decision?
So we haven't really tackled that one yet. It's in the unknown pile for us. It'll be a future Spike story to figure it out. So we haven't used it.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I guess I'll go real quick. In-place upgrade versus clean install, and then why you went with the clean install, and then how you plan to get your content into the clean install?
Yeah, so we're going with the clean install because we're building all these new environments in the cloud, right? So on one hand, it's really nice to kind of enable us to have the 3 Scrum teams on 5.6.1 and 3 on 6.1 because we have dual environments, and so that's great. Getting the content across and up is, we're going to use Grabit, which Grabit gives you a database to store all the content, and it actually moves quite quickly. The changes that we had to make to it were really dealing with all the different node changes and directory changes that occurred between 5.6.1 and 6.1. So that we just had to update our code to handle all of that.
Did you, question over here. Did you have to go through a business case process? And if so, what were some of the major drivers that actually drove that case?
Yeah, we don't do that. Done? No, we're not doing the business case. Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
There is one quick question.
Sure.
What is the reason why you used teaser and not MSM?
The reason I use which?
Teaser model.
Oh, teaser
For
model instead of
localization,
MSN?
Yeah.
Well, we made the decision actually back in March of 2012. And the thinking at that time was that for us, it seemed crazy to copy so much content that was exactly the same, right? So we have 8 different regions across the footprint, and there may or may not be differences between them. So like for FAQs, they're almost universally the same, except there's some products that aren't in that region of the footprint today, right? And it might get rolled out. The main differences we have are sometimes what's in a product, definitely the pricing across the footprint is different. And then sometimes promotions, like New York City may run an HBO 3-month free promotion or something like that. So often there would be 6 parts of the region that were the same and 2 that were different. So you'd need 3 teasers instead of always having 8 copies in the MSN model. So that was really what drove it for us. Mm-hmm. I can't see. Yes.
For search, you mentioned moving to Oak Solar. Could you tell us a bit more there? Were there any difficulties with upgrading for search?
Well, so far, we're going to wind up using the built-in search for like when you're looking for something in the dam. But for our external customer-facing search, we're still going to use our own because we've incorporated a lot of capabilities, and we'll kind of need to see where Adobe's goes over time.
So you have separate search for them and for
the
searching
authors.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll just go kind of 2 different paths. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I saw in the slide that you use Gradle in
Yes.
Groovy. So how long have you been using Gradle and Groovy, and since which version of AEM?
I think we've been using Gradle probably close to 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have one of the best Gradle guys on my team. I have a great team, so I mean everything I'm talking about, it's due to the team, right? Coming up with the approach and stuff, and I'm just an instigator.
Did you notice any performance issue? I mean, once it's compiled, it's a performance. What about, did it just make development easier?
So we had a lot of issues like in the whole Maven Vault kind of realm, and using Vault to copy content just took forever. So that's why we came up with the Grabit stuff. But using Gradle around GitHub just has lightened the load for everybody. We've got a lot of Gradle scripts that we've built over time, and another open source piece that we've actually released is a Gradle plugin with AEM. So I mean, all my team just says you go with Gradle, you're never going back, right?
Yeah.
So-
our project we're using Gradle, but I like it now.
Yeah. Done?
Any other questions?
All right, thank you.